I, 23 female, just found out my husband, 38 male, has been hiding his child from me. I just found this out yesterday and have no idea what to do. I could barely type this out. I still feel like I'm in a state of shock. Our marriage has been kind of rocky for the last year or so. My husband brought up starting a family a year ago when I had graduated from university, but we had only been married for a year and I wasn't really ready to start a family quite yet. I asked him for at least a couple of years and he seemed disappointed at first but ended up agreeing without much fanfare, so I didn't think it was a big deal. Gradually, he started getting busier at work and taking more on-call shifts at night. He said a specialist had transitioned to outpatient work only, so he felt obligated to pick up the extra slack. I didn't think anything of it at first, but the on-call shifts never ended and he said he decided to transition to nights full-time. I was pretty crushed because we wouldn't get to spend much time together and I said as much. But he said his work was important and he saw a greater need at night. Then he started having breakfast with the other physicians after his shift, and he would come home later and later. I would never be the type to think my husband was cheating, but he was spending less and less time with me. And I felt like my husband was a stranger, attacks almost every day, so I let myself continue denying my suspicions. Yesterday though, something came over me, and while he was sleeping, I decided to go through his phone. I went through his text messages, and they were messages from a nurse that were a mixture of conversation about the hospital, their affair, and a baby they both referred to in their messages as their son. Messages regarding daycare fees and pediatrician appointments were mixed in with text messages about their sex life. I feel ill. I have no idea what to do. I know I have to confront him, but I've been financially dependent on him since we've been married. I'm scared of life without him, but I know I can't be with him. He's out for breakfast this morning, and I want to text him not to come home, but I don't feel like I have the strength to face him. Wow, OP, I'm so sorry. This situation SCKS. Your husband is scum. Now to your dilemma. I think you've got two ways to go about it. One, you can bide your time and start securing something for yourself. Like getting a job, getting more evidence so that when you take him to court, you'll be taken care of. And the other solution is to just go and confront him right now and see what happens. However, personally, I don't think that would be the best way to go, considering he had a child with somebody else behind your back just because you weren't ready yet. Doesn't give me the impression that this guy is a nice person in any kind of way. Now, I know that everyone's a general after the war, but the learning here is that this is the type of thing that you should talk about before you get married. Children is a huge topic. Do we want any? If so, how many do we want? When will we want them to come? And all of that stuff. Are we financially prepared to sustain kids? There's a lot to think about, and apparently you guys just got married and have a 15-year age gap, which of course kind of puts you in different positions in life. In any case, what I would do if I was in your shoes OP is get a lot of evidence and just take my time to secure myself financially before blowing this whole thing up. But of course that's a decision that you have to make. And what about you guys? Which option would you take, or do you have an alternative route? Let me know in the comments section, and now let's move on to the community comments to see what they said. Cucky McCuckercuck says, save the evidence, rinse him in a divorce. Don't confront him yet as he'll have the chance to destroy evidence. Collect what you can. Find a good lawyer. Maybe don't confront him yourself even. Rather let the divorce papers do the talking. That allows you to avoid all the pleading, lies and BS that'll inevitably come from his mouth. Aim to separate yourself from this piece of crap swiftly and without drama. Start seeing a therapist to work through this trauma too. And OP responds, the only evidence I have would be text messages. Other than screenshots, I'm not sure how to gather it. K. Murik says, pack a bag, go somewhere safe, preferably surrounded by someone who loves you, family, friends, and take a deep breath. Then call a divorce lawyer. Call your douchebag husband and tell him you're getting a divorce. He knows why and you don't want to hear any of his excuses, and block his number. Sorry, you're going through this. Try not to go through it alone. And OP responds, I'm worried about leaving. The only real source of money I have is a credit card he's made me an authorized user on, which he'll probably cancel once I leave. We have a joint checking account that he'll put some money into every month, but again, he'll stop that once I leave. Rick and Shorty says, my mom stayed with my dad for years because she was financially dependent on him and was scared of being broke. She finally left him after years of unhappiness, and it's the best decision she ever made. She says she wishes she did it sooner. Don't let the financial scare bully you into a bad relationship. OP's edit, my husband came home and it took everything in my power not to confront him. I will get a lawyer. To those asking about family, that's another reason I'm scared to confront him, because he's helped my family out quite a bit. He's not a bad guy. Really, I only wish I would have given him a child sooner. Maybe I wouldn't be in this position now if I had. OP's edit number 2. Thank you everyone. I really appreciate your concerns. Many people are calling me a sugar baby and saying this is my fault. And you know what? Maybe you're right. I was discouraged along the way to get a job by my parents, my friends, and even my husband. But ultimately, the fault was mine for taking the easy way out. As far as my degree, that was all me. Granted, my husband made it easier for me to study without having to worry about bills. But I'll be D-net if I let people give him credit for something I earned. My parents are telling me that he made a mistake, that I shouldn't throw everything away and that we can work through it, but I'm done. Alright, well, the community gave OP advice and apparently also gave her a hard time for the position that she's in. And even though OP edit number 1 is kinda scary with her thinking that she should have given him a child sooner or she wouldn't be in this position, because that is the wrong way to think about this whole thing. In her second edit, she takes responsibility for the situation that she's in and she's going to do something about it. Update. For those of you who were curious, I reached out to an old professor of mine and sent some resumes out, and I'm continuing to send them out. I've also told my friends and family that I'm going to get a divorce. Most were supportive as soon as I told them. My parents still think I should go to counseling to see if we can fix things. But they're supportive of me and said that they would be happy to have me back until I got on my feet again. Your parents are idiots, but they support you. For those of you saying that my parents were somehow profiting off of my marriage, that's not true at all. My parents have had some health problems and my husband helped them find specialists, explained all the medical jargon and really helped them through some tough times. Anyway, when it came to my husband, despite all of your warnings, I did contact a couple of lawyers, but I didn't feel great about it. I know it sounds ridiculous, but going behind his back and contacting people who seemed way too eager to help me end the marriage somehow made me feel sneaky. But it didn't even matter because as soon as I told my husband I needed to talk to him about something, he told me everything. He told me about how he didn't mean for things to end up this way. He's sorry he hurt me. He does love me, but he understands that I could never believe him because of what he's put me through. He was sincere and remorseful, but I realized that what I thought was love was just an infatuation, and the past week has shown me that. I told him I couldn't be with him any longer, that I had already started looking for jobs and was planning on moving back with my parents. He's agreed to let me keep my car and he said he had some money saved up for a trip for us that he'd never got around to using and said that I could have it. I refused, but he insisted. He also let me keep my credit card for emergencies until I got back on my feet. But I'm not sure how I feel about taking that. He offered to set me up in an apartment until I could afford to pay my own rent, but I declined that. I'll be moving out of here by next week and my husband has seen a lawyer about filing for divorce. He's also strongly suggested that I find one as well so he or she can help me navigate the legal process. So I've been looking into that. He said he would be willing to give me half of his salary for the 3 years that we were married. And I agreed to that. So that's that. Thank you to anyone who cared. Okay, I guess OP your future ex-husband is some sort of a decent piece of crap. I don't know how to phrase it. I mean, because of course he did have a baby behind your back, but now in the divorce he's acting pretty reasonable and quite nice about it. Still, what he did SC-CAD. In any case, OP, it's a good thing that this is ending amicably, that there's no kids in between the both of you because that would SCK and that now you can move on with your life. Story 2. I am 25 and getting married, dealing with issue around picking my maid of honor for my wedding. Friends, women in their 22nds, think my brother, 35 male, is a bad choice. I am planning my wedding to my awesome fiancé and I'm so excited. We've been planning the event and we'll be married later in the year. He has his best man, his brother, and groomsmen mostly picked out. I thought I did too. We each have 5 people and I have 5 female bridesmaids and a man of honor which I want to be my brother. My bridesmaids think this isn't a great idea and if you are hurt I'm not choosing them instead. Here's why I want to choose my brother. My biological mother lost custody of me when I was 4 and I was put in an emergency foster situation with a family. I lived with them for 6 months but was then put back into my mother's care. From 4.5-ish to 6, I lived with my mother and it was bad. She was too sick, too addicted, and too weak to handle a child, and by 6, I was being adopted out. By some miracle, the family who took me in at 4 got a hold of the system, and I went to live with them and was later adopted. The family had boys. The youngest was 16 when I got there. I was terrified of him when I got there, which they told me about recently. I have no recollection of that. I do remember him spending the summer with me, teaching me to swim, teaching me how to play games, and teaching me how different appliances work. He skipped a summer job to help our mom with my adjustment. I had eating problems. I had dental problems. I had a snoot full of health issues, including parasites. He came to doctor appointments. He also helped get me ready for school. I hadn't started kindergarten yet and would actually never go. He and my mom would do learning activities with me, and by September, I was okay to enter 1st grade. I used to lay on my stomach and play geography games with him, and he rewarded me with reasons. We were very close. He didn't go away to college as is tradition and instead stayed home to go to a good university locally. He'd pick me up from school some days, And from 6 to 12, I had an older brother to rely on. He eventually moved out and went to medical school. He's such a great person for that field. Very literally, my brother helped save my life. I was life-ending as a young kid. And through a lot of changes and help, I was able to climb out. He was a calm, stable influence in my life. I credit him, my mother and my father with saving my life. I would never have gone to college. I probably wouldn't have graduated high school or even lived as I was 8. My family doesn't look like me and doesn't come from where I do. I'm most likely Latina and something else, most probably African American. But they never treated me any differently than their other kids. And since the others were older and out of the home, I was never as close to them as I was with my parents and my brother. My thinking is that a maid of honor is someone really important, and I cannot think of anyone else who comes close. I haven't even asked him yet, but I think he'd do it. I told my parents and they said they wouldn't say anything to him but thought it was a great idea. My husband is also good with it and thinks it's a sweet thing to do. But my female friends were horrified I suggested it and think it's creepy. If I look back on that time, it's the happiest a person could be. Is it weird and creepy? Does it contravene some weird relationship boundary between brothers and sisters? Is it highly inappropriate? No, OP, of course it's not creepy. Your bridesmaids are just being idiots. Here's what I think. You want him to be your man of honor. Your future husband is absolutely okay with this and thinks it's great. So yeah, it's both of your wedding. As long as the two of you are on the same page with it, that's what goes. And I gotta say, by the way, it is a fantastic pick because he definitely loves you and would do everything in his power to help your wedding be awesome. And I think that's actually the main role of the maid of honor, to help take some stress out of you so that you can enjoy the wedding. So OP, if you want your brother to be your man of honor, then so be it. And tell your bridesmaids that they can shut up about it or just come as a guest. Your wedding is not about their opinion. It's about what you and your future husband want it to be. And what do you guys think about this situation? How do you feel about her brother being the man of honor? Let me know in the comments section, and now let's move on to the community comments to see what they said. Deleted says, you don't even need that list of very valid reasons to pick your brother. If you want him and your fiancé is fine with it, do it. My husband had 4 best men, including his brother, because he couldn't choose, and 1 best woman. A few people made comments, mostly his mom, and we just responded with, it's not your wedding. You wouldn't want us meddling with your wedding choices, so please don't meddle with ours. As to your whiny bridesmaids, tell them that you picking your brother is the exact same as you picking your sister if you had one, and that you don't want to hear any more about it. George Feeser says, a friend of mine recently got married. Her man of honor was her brother, and the groom's best mate was his sister. I thought it was really cool that they picked the people who they're actually the closest with and who mean the most to them, regardless of their gender. Your friends are being immature and petty. It's your wedding and they should be accepting of your wishes, especially considering your history with your brother. Molly Moo 24601 says, as a woman who sells wedding dresses for a living, I will say this. Women wrongly see maid of honor as a competition. We for some reason have it ingrained in us that it's like winning prom queen. It's like, look at me, the bride loves me the most. It's a very sweet thing when genuine, but there's usually a tinge of that competition there. So basically, your friends are being douches and are miffed that none of them get to win the title. Pick your brother, go with your heart, because while women unfortunately view receiving the title as a competition, I know that the bride herself always means it to show love and trust, and you love and trust your brother. Also, gotta say, the maid of honor position comes with some work, and your brother seems like he won't drop the ball on any of it and will come through for you. Sounds like a responsible and loving brother. And for him, I truly appreciate that he'll feel so honored and validated if you pick him. Additional information from OP's comments. For those asking, my brother will not dance with my future husband at the wedding. We're not having a formal dance at our wedding but giving people the option. Neither of us can dance well, so we're having other options, particularly cocktail time. Also, he's not going to be planning my bachelorette party or bridal shower, but neither will my bridesmaids, really. My fiancé and I are doing most of the work. And for a bridal shower, I'm pretty sure he would put it together if that's what was required, but then again, I don't think it's absolutely necessary. Alright, well, the community totally agreed that OP should choose her brother and that the bridesmaids should just shut up. Update. I am so thankful for all of your comments. I read every single one of them. So what happened? Well, I realized that it was my wedding. My fiancé fully understood my position, really likes my brother and thought it was a great idea. I organized a brunch with my current bridesmaids to explain my position and why I did what I did. I realized that it's a story I've told but didn't talk about with my friends. I thought it was abundantly clear that being different from my family made it obvious. The brunch was interesting. What I didn't mention in my last post was that the person who raised the most fuzz was also someone who seemed to get the other people going more than they otherwise would have. We met for a lovely brunch at a nice place, my treat too, and I raised the issue once more. The person who was most disgusted by it, Ms. X, again raised her objection. She was furious and said that this was a travesty and tried to rally the other girls. This time, there wasn't as much of a reaction and the others sort of just didn't care. I told him why I wanted to honor my brother and why it was so important to me. And Ms. X admitted that it was lovely and touching, but it should be her because it's her business. Turns out that she wanted to be maid of honor and was going behind my back to get the other girls to drop out of contention so that she could do it so she could plan the wedding and thus could be maid of honor / wedding planner. And this would be for her business. I was a bit surprised. Ms. X was so upset that she threatened to drop out of the bridal party altogether if this went further. The brunch was tense after she left, but the consensus was that the other girls wanted her gone. And I didn't want her around anymore either, so she's no longer being included. I will send her an invite. Now, that meant I had to pick my brother. As I mentioned, he's a doctor and has a dual practice, so I swung by his office and texted him that I really needed to talk. He misinterpreted my comments, so he kept the office open late. And his secretary / nurse / wife let me in. I went into his office and he was immediately worried I was sick, but I told him what had happened, why Ms. X dropped out, and that I wanted him to be my man of honor. He was totally surprised and confused. He asked if I was sure and that I really shouldn't feel compelled, which is when I began crying. I had so much pent-up emotion, so he made me laugh, which meant I was snorting, laughing, crying, which is my usual. He said he would be delighted but wasn't really good at bridal showers and that he would need help. We arranged a time for all bridesmaids to come together to meet the man of honor. So we are having a barbecue at my parents' place this weekend. My mom and dad are so happy that he's involved. My dad is walking me down the aisle and my brother will stand at the end. My brother offered a very, very generous gift towards paying for the wedding. So not only is he standing as the maid of honor, but he is paying about 1/3 of the wedding. We're really thankful and excited. Interesting story. One of the bridesmaids actually knows my brother. This bridesmaid and I were friends at college and lived away for a while. While visiting home, she developed some sort of nasty infection and was directed from a walk-in clinic to an emergency room where my brother attended to her and got her on her way. So there's a weird personal connection that they can talk about when they meet. Hey, you lanced something somewhere. Glad to meet you again. All in all, I'm sad one friend turned out to be so selfish, but I'm happy to get my man of honor. Well, OP, that's love. That's brother and sister love, and it's great. This is fantastic. I'm so happy for you. So now all that there's left to say is that I hope your wedding is awesome and that you and your future husband have an awesome life together.